We are going to create an app called Contoso University. This Contoso University has been used in almost every single version of the different frameworks. For an example, it's actually a pretty good one. We're not going to go through the entire tutorial. We are going to go through up to and through migrations, but we're not going to do the rest. This is more complicated, and you will learn more about all of this when we get into CIT 218. Even though CIT 218 uses MVC, a lot of the entity framework information is going to be the same, and that is what some of this gets into. So we are going to focus on the UI and working with more than one table. So we're going to create a new project. And again, this is going to be ASP.NET Core Web App Razor Pages. And the name is Contoso University. And I am putting it in my 195 folder. If you are a PC user, you should be able to choose .NET 8. Otherwise, if you're using a Mac, your highest is probably .NET 7. And the tutorial is showing some graphics from .NET 6, but there's not a whole lot of difference between any of them. So if your PC, use .NET 8. If your Mac, use .NET 7, and then click Create. And what you're going to see is very similar to what we saw before when we did the movie app. And they do have us make some changes right off the bat. They would like us to modify the layout page. And if you remember, the layout page provides that navigation bar for all of the views. And so let's open that up. And first thing they want us to do is put a space between Contoso and University. So we're doing it up here in the title. We're doing it here on the nav bar. And then we're going to do that down here in the footer, which has got copyright information. And then they would like us to change the navigation links. So we're going to be replacing these with the links they have specified. So let me pull this over because the links they have specified are in yellow. And so these are the ones. I'm just going to simply copy them. And then I'm going to paste them over the existing navigation links. And so the existing links had home and privacy. And the new ones, this is going to display an about page, which we do not have yet. We have the landing page, which is index. We have a privacy page, but we do not have the about page yet. And then, as you can see, we're going to end up creating a students folder and doing all the CRUD functions in there. And this will be displaying the index page. We're going to do a courses folder, and we're going to have all of the CRUD functions there. And actually, we are not going to get far enough for instructor and departments. So we'll probably end up commenting out that code. We're going to have students, we're going to have courses, and we're actually going to have enrollments. Those are the three that we are going to be working with, and we're not going to be adding instructors or departments. So if you guys would like to comment those out, you certainly can. And we will insert a Razor page comment for this. Okay, so this is the opening Razor comment, and this is the closing portion. And so I'm just going to enclose those in the comments because I know we are not going to be using that. Okay, so let's save. They also want us to change the landing page, which is, so that is under pages and index. So by default, when this app, when you first come to the app, this is the page that you land on. And they have this split into 3 different sections. And they're using some little card styling, bootstrap card styling to create these 3 little sections. And you can see that little comment that I just added. They have commented out some link code using that. So I'm going to copy this. And I'm going to press Control A to highlight everything and Control V as in Victor to paste. And now I have my new landing page. And I'm going to save everything. And at this point, we are going to add some models. And so we are not going to go all the way through this project, but we will be creating a course enrollment and a student class. And these are related. So you kind of have to put your relational database cap on because we have a course table. The course ID is going to be our key. We're also going to add a property for title and credits. One course can have many enrollments. Okay. And then we have an enrollment table. And this is related to both course and student. It is the many side of the relationship. And because of that, to form this connection, we had to take the course ID and put it into enrollment as a foreign key. And then we took ID from student, which is the primary key, and we added student ID here as a foreign key. So we're connecting from the primary key and we're creating a foreign key here, taking this primary key, creating a foreign key here. The enrollment table has enrollment ID, and that is going to be its key. And in Entity Framework, there are 2 ways that it identifies a property as a primary key. You either use ID for the name, or you take the name of the class followed by ID. Okay, and so either way, it's going to recognize that as the primary key. For foreign keys, you take the name of the class that you are connecting to followed by ID. Okay, and that is how it recognizes a foreign key. So here we have 4 properties, primary key, 2 foreign keys, and grade. And then over in student, ID is going to be the key. And then we have last name, first and middle name, and enrollment date. We have not looked at navigation properties before because we've only dealt with one table. And in your term project, you only need to deal with one table. But navigation properties, if you understand the primary key and foreign key concept, then the navigation properties are not hard to understand either, because you're just kind of helping Entity Framework understand how the tables are related. And so we have one course that can have many enrollments. So we add enrollments to course as a collection. And if you remember, a collection is going to be more than one. Okay. And we have one student that can have many enrollments. And so we add enrollments to student as a collection. Okay. And then for enrollment, we already added the foreign keys, but we're going to add course and student as one property or one entry. Okay. And so because there can only be one, whereas there can be, many enrollments for a course and many enrollments for a student. Okay. So you'll see that as we look at the actual classes themselves. So here is our student class that we're going to be adding. And so you can see we have ID as the property. So that's going to be the primary key. And then we have our other properties as well. And then here is the collection. And then we're using the class as our data type. And we are calling it enrollments. Okay, so we are going to go ahead and create this. We do not have our models folder yet. So we're going to add that. And we're going to call it models. And then we are going to go ahead and we're going to add, wherever that is, add class. And we're going to call it student. And then just to make our lives easier, we're going to copy this. And we're going to paste it over the top of that. And it is going to flag this as an error because we do not have an enrollment class yet. And you'll notice that it is giving us like a little kind of a warning on these because it says they're nullable. And what we can do to get rid of that is we can just initialize them to string.empty. The newer versions of .NET have implemented initializing things, which, you know, is kind of a good practice to get into. Okay, so we are going to do that. To get rid of that little squiggle, we can even set this equal to default with an exclamation. And you can see that gets rid of that one as well. So then we just have to create our enrollment class, and then this error will go away. So without further ado, we are going to do our enrollment class. And so this has got all of these foreign keys in it. The enrollment ID is going to be our primary key. And again, Entity Framework either looks for ID or the class name followed by ID, and it makes that the primary key. Another interesting thing here is that we have an enumeration for grade. So when we use enum, grade actually becomes the data type. So you can see that's right down here. And we've made it nullable, which means it does not have to be filled in. Okay, and we've even got a little annotation in here that says if it's null, you need to display no grade. Okay, and then course ID and student ID, these are foreign keys. So we have to use the exact same data type for those properties that we used in the table they were created in. So student ID is an integer and course ID will be also. And then in this table, these represent the one part of the one-to-many connection. And so the navigation properties are then set for one course and one student. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this. And then I'm going to create enrollment.cs. That is going to go in models. And I'm going to just paste over what is here. And again, we can get rid of the little squiggle under student by setting that equal to default with the exclamation. And we'll go ahead and do that for course as well. And then we'll end up getting rid of that error when we create the course table. And we're not getting errors on anything else, basically because primary key is required. The two foreign keys are going to be required. And we already said that grade is nullable. So let's save this. And now we're going to do course. So for course, we have course ID, which is our key. And then we're going to have title and credits, which are our two other properties. And then we're going to be telling Entity Framework how this is related to enrollments. And so enrollments represents the many portion of the relationship. And so this is going to be a collection. So if we look down here, you can see that it is in fact a collection. And then we have course ID, title, and credits. And then above course ID, we have a data annotation. And this is a schema annotation because it is going to affect the table that is generated. And we're basically telling it that it should not generate the primary key. So normally it generates the primary key and it does like an auto numbering system. So the first row has a key of 1. The second row has a key of 2. We're telling it not to do that, which means we have to enter the ID ourselves. But that's what we want because we're going to put the course number in as the course ID. So I'm going to copy this and we are going to create our course model. So we're going to enter course and we're going to paste right over the top. And we're going to go ahead and set that equal to default. And it's kind of flagging string title because we need to set it to string.empty. And here we've got credits. And I think we're just going to leave that alone. So let's save this. And now all of the errors on the different classes should be gone because at this point we have all of our classes created. Now, if the nullable warning bothers you, I think we have basically eliminated it, but I will show you where it is coming from. Because I know some of you have noticed it in the console apps. And so you have to go into the actual project folder. Let me refresh this. So in the project folder itself, there is a CS project file. And you can open this with the text editor. I'm going to use Notepad. This line is what is creating that error. So if you delete it, okay, and you save your changes, that error will go away. Okay, so just wanted to show you where that was. We've kind of overcome the error, but if you want to delete it, go ahead. And we are going to do some scaffolding for our student pages. So that requires that we add a student folder. And actually I want it pluralized, so I'm going to rename it and put an S on it. Students. And now I am going to do the scaffolding. So I'm going to right click on students, add a new scaffolded item. This is a Razor page, and we want Razor pages using Entity Framework. For the model class, that is student. DB context we have to generate. And they want us to change the name. They don't like Contoso University context. So that part we're going to change to school context. Okay, Contoso University.data.school context is what they want. So we're going to click add. Everything else can be the same. And we're going to add. Going to add. Click on add. So what it's doing right now is it is installing 3 entity framework packages for us. And let me pull this over so you can see which ones. Entity Framework Core SQL Server, Entity Framework Core Tools, and it's also doing this Visual Studio code generation design. Okay, so it's installing those for us, so we do not have to do that. Okay, it is also generating the Razor page itself, the view, the CS HTML, plus the view model, the C# code that is behind the page. So if we kind of scroll up, you can see that it generated all of those. And if we expand this out, you can see all of those pages and the code behind. Another thing it did is it generated a connection string for us, which is in app settings.json. This is the default name of the database. And you can keep that name or you can change it. So I think I'm going to change it to Contoso University DB. Okay. So you can kind of change it to whatever you want. No spaces in there though. And it also generated, save everything, a data folder and a context file. And the context file is not complete. We don't have the DB set, the instructions for creating our other tables. And we also want to change the name of the table. So this is the model. Okay, what we have in the brackets is the model that it's going to grab. And then this is going to be the name of the table in the database. And it has some code that it would like us to copy. Okay, and you can see that it's got the DB sets for all three of the classes, and for the way that it's going to name those tables in the database, it's got them pluralized. Then down here, it's actually going to be taking the data from each of those tables and putting it into a little table. So let's copy this. And the reason it's doing that is because we have related tables. So let's copy this. And then we can just kind of highlight all of this and paste it right in. Okay, and as long as you have named everything the way you have been instructed to, you shouldn't see any errors. And let's save everything and take a look at Program CS. And Program CS automatically added the services that we need. This is the dependency injection for our database. It's connecting our context file that's up here with the actual database it's going to create, which is defined in app settings.json. Okay. So we need that for the database to actually be created and for everything to get connected, because school context then is connecting the models with what we're going to actually name the tables in the database. So they're all kind of wired together. Now, there are some additional codes they would like us to add. And in order for these codes to work, we are going to have to install another package, another entity framework package. So first, we're going to add the codes, and they are going to flag as errors until we install the proper package. So I'm just going to copy this. And this needs to go underneath those DB context services. And it's going to go above the app object here. Oops, did not copy. Let me undo There. Let me try copying it again. There we go. And it's flagging an error. Just ignore it because we're going to be adding the entity framework package that it needs. Then we're going to add on to this little if. We're going to add an else to it. So I'm going to, here is the else. I'm going to copy that. And I'm going to paste that right here. Okay, so this is also going to flag an error just because we haven't added what we need to in order for that to run. And as you can see, these are going to be diagnostic commands that should help us do troubleshooting if we need to. We did not add these in the other project, so this is something different that we are doing in this one. And the package that we need to add is this one. Now, I'm going to, instead of doing the command line, I am actually going to go into the NuGet package manager because it's really important when you install anything from Entity Framework that you match the .NET version that you are using. And so my app is .NET 8. Yours may be .NET 7, but you have to match the Entity Framework version to your .NET version. Okay, so to ensure that we match, I am going to go to Tools, NuGet Package Manager, and we want to go into Manage NuGet Packages. And this shows us right now what we have installed. So it automatically installed this when it did the scaffolding. And you can see it's version 8, which is perfect. That's exactly what I needed. Okay, it matches my version of .NET. So I'm going to go over to Browse. And what I'm going to look for is the name of that package. Okay, so I'm going to keep keying until I see it. So it's Microsoft.ASP.NETCore.diag. And when I get about this far, I should be able to find it. And it is diagnostics.entityframework core. So it's this one. Now over here, we have to tell it, that we want to install this in our project. And it tells us it's not installed. And then it shows us what the latest version is. And this is where, you have to match the version to your .NET version. So if you are using .NET 7, you need to change it to 7. If you are using .NET 8, choose the most recent .NET 8. So you can see we have lots of .NET 7 versions. Choose the highest one. For .NET 8, choose the highest one and install it. And then you'll have to accept. Right? And then as it, installs, you may see errors. These should all kind of resolve themselves. And let's see, let's go back over. We'll save everything. We can close out of this. And now those errors are gone. And we need to add a little bit more code so that we can seed the database and the database can be created. Now, let me see what error I have here. Okay, so this should be students. I don't know why it says. So you may want to check in our context. We have students. And so in our students, and all of these, we should be looking at students. So I can see I have a little issue. So I'm just going to double click on all these errors and change student to students because that is going to be the name of my table. And right now it is not correct. And as I resolve these little issues, oops, okay. I think I've got them all. Let me save here. Anytime you see errors in your error list, you can double click and take a look because you are going to want to resolve them. Moving along here. We are going to add this code and we haven't created our seed data. So we're going to have that commented out. But basically what this is going to do, this is a little bit different than the Razor Page movie. It's basically going to get all of the services that we need for our context. And then it's going to make sure that the database is created. This kind of bypasses migrations. So it is going to generate up that database without doing the migrations. But as you can see in this project, we are going to end up doing the migrations anyway. But I'm going to copy this. So this is a little different. And we are going to add this to our program CS file. So it's going to go right below this if else. And right now the seed data is commented out because it does not exist. And we're going to save everything. And this is actually going to work. Even though we haven't done migrations, this command is going to make sure that the database gets created. So it should work. So we can actually select students and see nothing because we don't have any seed data, but it does work. So let's close that out. We are going to be adding the seed data now because it's always more fun to look at things when there is data in there. And so the convention for adding seed data is you either put it in models or in data. In this project, they're going to have us put it in data. So we're going to add a class. And this one is going to be called DB Initializer. And this is another one where we can, thank goodness, copy, because this would be a whole lot to type. So let's copy this. We're going to paste it right in here. And let's take a look at what it is doing. So this is similar to our other seed data from the movie project. The difference is we have 3 tables that we're putting data into. So when you add seed data, you need to add the data to the one tables. You know, we have one-to-many relationships. The student table is a one table, and the course table is a one table. And then those primary keys from those 2 tables are pulled into enrollment. So enrollment has to be created last. Okay, we can't add anything to enrollment until we have courses and students. So we are doing the students, and we did not specify ID because it's auto-generated, but we have the rest of the data. And then you can see that we're adding the range. So this should look familiar to you guys. And we are saving it to the database. Okay. And then we're doing the same thing here for courses. With courses, if you remember, we told it not to generate the ID. So we have to specify the ID. And that means we have to be kind of careful because we cannot duplicate IDs. They have to be unique. Okay. And then all of this is going to get added and saved. And then finally, down here with enrollment, it is going to be generating the ID. But we have to specify the student ID and the course ID. We have to pick IDs that exist. So course ID is kind of easy because we can see it. So we're only going to put course IDs that actually exist. Student ID, well, it's generating those. So how does it generate the numbers? It gives the first student number 1, the second student gets number 2, number 3, number 4, etc. Okay, so we can use those numbers that we know it's going to generate as our student IDs. Okay, and then we use the course numbers that we've entered. And then if you remember, grade was nullable, which means it may or may not be filled in. So for some of them, we have grades, some of them we don't. But we're going to add the enrollments and save the changes. So that is all of our seed data. Now to get this to actually run, let's save. We got to go back into Program CS and remove the comment here. Okay, and now it will run. So we are going to get rid of the existing database that it created the last time we ran this. And then we are going to run it again. And we are going to be able to see all of the seed data. So we can go into the package manager and we can give the command to drop the database. And it's just drop dash database. And we are going to add this little confirm property. Okay, are you sure you want to do this? We are going to say yes. Okay, so now the database is gone. And if you want to look at the code, this should look familiar, putting your database hats back on. So here we've got begin alter database. It did a rollback on it. And here is the drop database command. And you can see it was successful. Okay, so the rollback, I'm not sure if you took database with me, we did cover this. This is part of transaction processing. It lets you back out of things. And this drop database actually got rid of the database for us. So at this point, we can go ahead and launch the app. We haven't done migrations, but it will generate the database and seed it for us because of these commands in here. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and hit students. And here is all of our seed data. And the details should work. We wanted to edit, we could. Okay, but all of this should be working. We aren't going to choose courses because we have not created any of our course views yet. So I'm going to close out of here. And for the rest of this part of the tutorial, they're basically talking about the asynchronous nature of the app. And you are already familiar with that. So if we look at the code behind, you can see that in the index page for students, it is asynchronous. Basically, it's going to be asynchronous anytime it is interfacing with the database. And that is so if somebody else is using the app while we are using it and it has to wait, it can do other tasks. It's not in a hold state. Okay, so pretty much any time you have any kind of database command. Okay, this is on post in an edit page, which means we've made changes and we've submitted them. If there's no errors, okay, this is checking for errors. So if there's errors, we stay on the page and the errors display. If there's no errors, then it's going to try to save the changes. And this is where the await is. Okay, and the only errors that you're going to have here, and I explained this in the Razor page movie that we already created, but on an edit, it's conceivable that you pulled up the page and somebody else pulled up the same page. Maybe they deleted the data, and then you try to save a change. That is when you get this kind of concurrency exception, because that row doesn't exist anymore. Okay, and so those are the kind of errors that you get with concurrency. Concurrency exceptions are, more than one person is accessing that page and somebody's made changes and then you're trying to make changes and they're out of sync. Okay, and that can happen sometimes. We do talk about concurrency issues and how to resolve them in the 218 class. It's kind of beyond what we do in this one, but I did want to explain what was going on there. All right, so at this point, we are done with the first part of the tutorial and we are going to move on to creating additional CRUD pages.